Factories first opened in Britain because of expansive amounts of coal and iron, a stable society, and because Britain was one of the leading colonial powers at the time. Factories were first built to house bulky machines that were too expensive to be housed and operated at home. In the beginning, they were powered by moving streams and other sources of water. However, once we learned how to use steam as fuel, they were powered by steam engines. One onlooker of the Industrial Revolution stated that the same amount of labor is now performed in one of these structures, which formerly occupied the industry of an entire district.
Factories evolved from a domestic system where people worked by hand. Factories also changed with the invention of effective machinery in the late 19th century, leading to mass production. Mass production is the manufacturing of goods on a large scale. The assembly line was also used with a high efficiency by having each section in the factory work on a different part of the good for faster production. Factories advanced with the use of automation, in which the machines could be controlled with automatic controls with human labor.
Factories were known for having a rigid schedule. Factory work was often harder than farm work and was more taxing physically. Factories were run by strict schedules and workers rarely had breaks. The people were often used to working off their own schedules when they worked on their farms. Shifts usually lasted from around 12 to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. Workers were usually underpaid and overworked in this job. Workers would overwork themselves and were eventually more prone to injury using the already dangerous equipment. They could lose a finger, limbs, or even their lives if they weren't careful. If an employee was sick or injured, they would be fired and replaced as soon as possible. Aside from that, their lungs would be damaged because of the extended exposure to unclean air. Women were also hired more often than men. Employers believed that women could adapt easier to the new machines than men. They also were paid less than half of what men were paid.
A series of acts were implemented to relieve the stress of having a factory job. These were called the Factory Acts. Most of the acts that were put in place limited the number of hours children could work. The Factory Act of 1819 limited a child's work hours to only 12 hours a day. The Factory Act of 1833 banned children under the age of 9 from working in the textiles industry. The textile industry was forced to do this because it used many dangerous pieces of equipment that children often died from using. The Factory Act of 1833 also stated that children between the ages of 10 and 13 could only work a 48-hour week. The Factory Act of 1844 applied to women this time. Its purpose was to limit the number of hours that women could work. After that act, women could only work for a maximum of 12 hours a day. One of the last acts was the Factory Act of 1850.